Hi guys, it's Mrs. Wine. Welcome back to art class. This week in second grade, we are going to be finishing our disc sculptures. Our studio session learning target says, I will complete the disc sculpture by cutting slots and assembling my disc sculpture. So the question we want to ask ourselves as we work today is how can we assemble discs to create balance and best show designs? You may have noticed a lot of words were underlined in our learning target and in our questions. So let's take a moment to go over some of those vocabulary. Remember, a disc is a flat circle, just like a frisbee is a flying disc that you can play with your friends in the park. A sculpture is a three-dimensional or 3D artwork, like a statue. Remember, regular artworks like paintings and drawings just have two dimensions. They have width and they have height, but they are flat. A sculpture also has depth. It is 3D. Sometimes we think of a sculpture like a statue of a person, but in this case, our sculpture is going to be abstract. It's going to be just shapes, so not representing anything other than a nice design. Today, one of the things you will be asked to do is to cut slots in your disc. A slot is a small cut in the edge of your disc. When it's time to put your sculpture together, you will line these slots up and you will slide the two discs together to create the sculpture. When you're cutting your slots, you want to cut 3 or 4 in each disc, and you want to balance where you cut them. That means if I'm cutting slots, I don't want to cut 1, 2, 3, 4 all together in one area. If I'm cutting 4, I should have a cut at the top, a cut at the bottom, and a cut on each side. It kind of reminds me of a clock with the number 12, 6, 3, and 9. Or you could cut 3 slots, but if you're cutting 3 slots, you still want to spread them out. You have 1 at the bottom and 2 at the top. It's almost like it's the letter Y, except it's just missing the middle part of the letter. And then finally, assemble or assembling is the way we're going to be building our sculpture. It's a way of building by putting different pieces together. Today, once you cut your slots, you'll line those slots up and you will slide the discs together to build your sculpture. So now that we know the vocabulary, let's look at our different steps. The first thing you want to do today is use scissors to neatly cut out all of your discs. Work to cut the circles with nice, smooth edges. Your goal should be to cut an absolute perfect circle. No flat edges, no sharp points, nice and smooth all the way around. Then, after you have cut out all of your discs, you're going to cut slots into the edges of your discs. Remember, 3 or 4 is the best number. And remember what we just talked about. When you're cutting your slots, you want to balance where you are putting them. So make sure you are spacing them out evenly along the edges of the disc. The slot is just one little cut. You're not cutting any pieces off. You're just making a little snip into the edge of the disc. So again, make sure you're focused on balancing those. Then, once you have cut them, it's time to start assembling the discs. Think about how you could plan your arrangement of the discs. Try a few things out. Make sure your sculpture will stand and be balanced. That means it's not tipping over or falling over, and it shouldn't be flat. You might find that you need to put a tiny piece of clear tape on the discs when you slide them together to help them stay firm. Think about when you're putting them together, how you can turn the discs to best see the designs that you created on them. You want to slide them together along the slots and make sure you look at your sculpture from different angles. Because you can look at a sculpture all the way around, you might want to turn it around on your table, or you might want to stand up and walk around the sculpture so you can look at it from the top, from one side, from the back side. Every side should be as interesting as possible. When you think you're finished, use this Show and Grow rubric to assess your work and make any revisions or any improvements you need. Look at how you used the art elements and concepts. Does your sculpture stand in a way that is balanced and creates a three-dimensional form? Look at neatness, your cutting technique, and your assembling technique. Are the discs cut with smooth edges? Is your sculpture staying together or falling apart? Remember, if you need to, it's fine to use a little bit of clear tape to hold those slots together once you have assembled the sculpture. And finally, we want to look at creativity. Are your discs assembled in a unique and interesting way? Can you see the designs from the different sides of the sculpture? Once you are completely finished, here are some questions to think about. One of our main purposes of this project was to think about how artists inspire other artists. A few weeks ago, we learned how the artist Damien Ortega, who created his sculpture with the slotted tortillas, inspired the artist Joel Enrique, who used the same idea but created simple designs with many different colors. How did these artists inspire you? How does your sculpture compare to Ortega's and Enrique's disc sculpture? When we're comparing something, we're telling how they are alike or how they are the same. So how does your sculpture look like theirs? How is your sculpture the same as theirs? And how are they different? What did you do to your sculpture that makes it look different from Ortega's and Enrique's? Once you are completely finished and you've thought about those questions, you're ready to submit your work. Because we're doing a sculpture this week, I want you to take 2 photos of your sculpture. Remember, ask a grown-up to help you take these photos. You want to take 2 photos from 2 different angles. You could take a photo from the top and a photo from the side. Or you could take a photo from one side and then walk around your sculpture and take a photo from the other side. Try to make sure when you are taking the photo of your sculpture that you're zooming in tightly so that I can focus on really looking at your sculpture and not what is in the background. Once you have your photos, you're ready to attach your photos to the Google form and then turn in the form. If you have trouble attaching the photos to the Google form, remember you can always send me the photos in Google Classroom. You can email them to me, or you can send them in Dojo. If you have any questions, you can certainly email me, or you can meet me on Zoom Monday through Friday from 2 until 2:20, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. I hope you have fun building, and until next week, keep on creating.